Welcome back to the Today with Tally podcast, folks. We have a great show in store for you today. We sit down with a Grand Island, Nebraska native and a veteran of the U.S. Navy. That's right, folks, a Devil Doc, a Fleet Marine Force Naval Corpsman. And we've got a lot of stories to sit down and tell you. But first,
hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
Brad Bennett, like I said, a native out of Grand Island, Nebraska, joins the U.S. Navy directly out of high school and becomes a Fleet Marine Force Devil Doc. Now, we've had a lot of Devil Docs on this show before, and they always come with, just awesome information, great stories about where they served and the things that they saw while they were in service to this country. And with that, we are honored to be joined by Brad Bennett, U.S. Navy combat veteran. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing, Tally?
Hey, man. Another day, another dollar, man. Just hanging in there. It's a Monday. It's a Monday for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
How you doing today, Brad?
Not too bad. Just working a little bit and hoping to get off early.
There you go. Hey, a little PTO and never hurt anybody, right?
No.
Now, Brad, you, like I had mentioned in the intro here, are a native of Grand Island, Nebraska. And it's very rare in today's society that you're actually born somewhere, raised somewhere, leave, come back, and then raise your family in the same town that you were born, raised, and currently reside in. Tell me a little bit about Grand Island, Nebraska.
Well, it's pretty boring. There's not a lot to do around here, but it's a good place to raise the kids. We got family around here, and when I came back, I wanted more than anything else to be with my family. So I had my mom and dad and grandparents and everything else here, and she had her parents. So it was just it was one of those things where you just wanted to come back and do the family thing and just chill out.
Mm-hmm. Sure. You did serve 8 years active duty in the Navy. So, that 8 years, it pretty much solidified that you would be back after that tour?
Yeah. I had thought about moving other places, but it just wasn't in the cards, and it's not, I didn't, the big cities weren't really for me.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Now, what was life like growing up as a kid in Grand Island?
It was pretty good. We like I said, it's pretty boring. So a lot of the things that we had to do around here was, go to Walmart and walk around, or go to the mall and walk around, So it's a place where you can get in some trouble, but I didn't have a lot of problems here. So my brother did though. So maybe you can have stories.
So would you consider yourself a boring guy?
Yeah, I'm a pretty boring guy. I just do some video games every once in a while, and most of the time I'm just doing family stuff.
Yeah,
I'd say I'm pretty boring now. After all the military stuff.
So you say, well, I live in a boring town, and I guess my life's kind of boring. But you play some video games, right?
Some video games. Yeah. I play some video games with my buddies still that I served with. So every once in a while I get a couple of buddies on there that I served with. So that's it's kind of helps to keep in contact with them too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what type of video games you play, Brad?
First person shooters mostly. I got to get that action in.
Does that do something for you?
Yeah. It's entertaining. You get a little bit of adrenaline out of it. So, you get that pump up a little bit, and, it's good stuff. I like it. I'll probably be playing video games till the day I die. So
would you say that that's a good place to kind of escape for a lot of combat veterans that have seen a lot of stuff over there in Iraq and Afghanistan that have probably been through some of the same scenarios that you have been, to come back and kind of not go back there, but to be in that same arena, if you will, with some of the same men and women that you were stationed with when you're playing these video games with them?
Oh yeah. I think it really depends on the video game too.
Mm.
I do have buddies that, they have a hard time playing like really fast paced first person shooter games, because, it kind of brings them back a little bit. Some video games they get into more like the adventure kind of video games that, like Star Wars or, Spider-Man or something like that, where, they just get to chill out, relax. They even have video games where you can fly around in space and just relax and just listen to a podcast. It's just one of those things that, some of us like to do. And, it helps us kind of clear our mind a little bit.
Sure. I mean, there's so many different outlets.
Yeah.
And, that could be one of them, whatever works, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, you would end up joining the U.S. Navy directly out of high school. Walk me through that selection process and why the U.S. Navy.
Oh, it was crazy because, okay, so when I first was looking to join, of course, was after 9/11, like most of us during that time. So I wanted to be a Marine, and I spent a lot of time, reading books, looking at different videos of Marines and all that. Like, I wanted to be a Marine so bad. And when I got to MEPS, they wouldn't let me because of my knees. So I have bad knees. And they said, oh, well, I think the MEPS doctor, he said, oh, we need a good piece of meat, is what he said. And I guess I wasn't that good piece of meat. So I tried forever. I even wrote a congressman and everything trying to get in the Marines. It was pretty intense. But, they said no. And so eventually the Navy head came doing recruiting, and I told them the story, and they said, hey, I can get you in the Navy. So I said, well, if you can get me in the Navy, then show me, And so the dude, like the next day, called me and was like, well, you're in the Navy, you're going to go to MEPS. So I decided to join the Navy. And what's funny about that is all I wanted to do when I was in high school, and this might sound a little morbid, but all I wanted to do was go and fight the guys that did 9/11 and die on the battlefield as a Marine. And that didn't work out for me. And when I was at MEPS, they were asking me what I wanted to do. And I asked them what kind of infantry roles they had in the Navy. And they said, we're the Navy. We don't have infantry roles. So my Marine recruiter happened to be walking by at the time and said, hey, you can be a Navy corpsman. You can be with the Marines and you can carry a gun. So I said, yep, let's do that. So, yeah. And then got to Corps school and didn't even realize it was a medical job until they started talking about biology stuff. And I never thought that I was smart enough to do any of that. So I was very nervous, very confused, but I made it. So, and I'm still in medical field today.
And you wore that eagle, globe, and anchor with pride on your cover.
Yep. And that's one of those things where, it was hard to gain respect with the Marines because you're the outsider. The Marines don't see you as a Marine. They don't want you there. So like they, at first, you always hear those stories of, they call you corpsman. They say, hey, corpsman. You have to earn that EGA and you have to earn that doc title. And I did that.
Earn the title of Devil Doc.
Yes, sir.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. Every unit that I was in, we all loved the Devil Doc because, you'd be out at, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30 until maybe even sometimes 5 a.m. and you got PT very, very soon after. And a lot of the times it's like, Doc, I need you to tap that arm for me, man, and give me an IV because I don't know how I'm going to make it through the day. And all of a sudden we're all feeling better.
Yep. Barracks medicine is what they call it.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden you're like trying to go to supply, and you're like, yeah, I need another, 50 bags of IV. Well, what happened to your 50 bags? Oh, a lot of dehydrated Marines. Come on now.
Yep, pretty much.
So you wanted to be a Marine. It didn't happen. So you did the next best thing, basically. And that next best thing was to be a Fleet Marine Force Navy corpsman attached to the Marine Corps.
Yep.
What was that experience like serving the Marines?
It was rough at first. I had went to a naval hospital. I served at the naval hospital for, I think, like 2.5 years before I went with the Marines. So when I checked in, I was already a third class or E4. And when I checked in my dress whites. So Navy dress whites, you have, you're all white. You have the little, neckerchief, and then you have the Dixie cup. So Marines are standing in formation. You go into that formation and fall in with your Dixie cup, and all the Marines are laughing at you. So it's a little rough at first. I had a tough time trying to, integrate into the Marine squad. And, it took a little while, but, you gain that respect. You kind of have to play both sides. It's rough because, the Marines have their mission, and your mission is the same and also different, because you're basically a rifleman until something medical happens. Then you're a corpsman. So having to be in that training with the Marines, and having to remember all the Marine stuff, all their movements, and then also having to remember in the back of your mind, if someone gets injured, then what do I do? So I spent a lot of time trying to understand and comprehend all that. I had a good corpsman in when we were in CAX in Mojave Viper before Iraq, and he was an awesome corpsman, and I loved talking to him. And I would ask good questions like, "Hey, man, like, I know that you've done this field medicine stuff. I've worked in a hospital. I haven't dealt with because the field medicine is more like." You have to come up with different things. You have to come up with ways to, like when you splint. So like if you don't happen to have a splint, then you have to improvise. So I was asking him, I was like, how do you do that? And he was like, you know what, man, it's easy. Just don't worry about it. He was basically like, don't worry about it, dude. So it was rough. It was one of those things where I think that if I had joined the Marine Corps, I don't think that I would have made a very good Marine. I think that it was probably part of the plan, part of the life plan, God's plan, to send me to that, as a corpsman, because I'm more of like that middleman. I'm more of that like outsider, and I think that kind of played well for me.
Why do you think you wouldn't have been a good Marine?
I'm just, I have a loud mouth, and I have a problem with authority. And if I see something wrong, then I speak out against it. And the way that I did things in the Navy, I did get into some trouble, not some big trouble, but I got into trouble for speaking my mind. So I just don't think that would have worked as well on the Marine Corps side, because you have to be as cohesive as possible. And if you're speaking your mind out in the field, and if you're speaking your mind out on the battlefield, then you're going to get people killed.
But I mean, still, you did the same thing. You were a rifleman. You did a lot of the Marine Corps training. Again, the movements. You're with a Marine Corps unit in places like Iraq. So really at the end of the day, you needed to have your your field medicine kit with you, your rifle with you, and know every single step of the way that at any moment you could be doing both, being a rifleman as well as somebody's lifeline to get them all the aid that they need to further get them back to the battalion aid station or whatever it may be, the field, the field hospital. So, I mean, obviously, you were able to get in there and earn your keep and earn that respect and that title of Devil Doc. Now, let's go to Iraq. Take me to Iraq. Now, when you got sent to Iraq, walk us through how that all played out and what were some of the missions that you were involved out there?
So Iraq was a big point in my life because, of course, that's what I wanted. I wanted to get there. I wanted to get, into the battle. And so when we flew into Kuwait and then we got on those trucks to drive out to Iraq, it was it was Kuwait and then out to Qadim and then we drove to Ramadi. But it was scary, like I was terrified, because we were driving in armadillos and you have like you're just open, so it's like is something gonna hit us or is something gonna happen, but we got into Ramadi and for the most part it was pretty quiet, and it was weird because all the stories that I had heard before from like the guys that were there from like 2004, Battle of Ramadi and all that, like I was expecting to like drive into some firefights or something. Like I was I was scared, man. And but it was we got there, they got it, they put us into this, it was almost like an old school or something, and that was kind of the Marines barracks. It was kind of nicer at that time. So, the NCOs, we got cans is what they called them, which was basically kind of, we had some like air conditioning. So it was pretty nice. But I was attached at that time, I was attached to Motor T. And so we would run log trains and we basically were the security for Iraqi like supply guys that they had hired to do like carrying, like we carried some food and we carried some fuel, so we would go out every night and we would go to almost every fob out there, and we would just go and at when we first got there, I was they had said that supposedly there was some kind of like sniper out there that was like doing a pretty good job, I guess. So, when we were driving through the streets, I remember the first week or two, like I remember like just looking at the road, the rooftops, and the first couple times that we drove through the city, I mean, all you see is just peppered buildings, sandbags in the windows. I mean, you could tell that there was some big fighting that happened in that city, and it was only, I think that we were only 2 weeks in when the truck bomb happened over at Fob Nasser, and I was a few miles. I'm not sure like how many or like how far I was away from that fob, but I remember when it hit, when that explosion happened, I felt it in my chest, and the building next to us was almost shaking, and the gravel was falling off. So like we thought we were getting hit, and they sent out my dismount. They sent out the dismount to go post security in case something else happened, and then we were just sitting on this fob, and every once in a while we would have someone come back to the back of the truck and give us an update and be like, hey, it's they're over there, and there's a lot of casualties and whatever else. And so I was telling my sergeant, I was like, hey, we need to get down there because my buddy's over there, and I need to help him out. And like I was just kind of like I was like in the zone, I wanted to get down there, and and they just kept saying, they said that it's not RAO, and we can't move from the fob. We can't go over there. So like I'm just sitting back there getting these updates of like, oh, we have another, like one of them's dead, and one of our guys is dead, and so we're getting these updates, and I'm like, we need to move, and they're like, no, we can't because we can't move within the AO because we're not authorized, and it was tough, man. It was a tough thing, but that's kind of one of those things that kind of sticks in my memory because it's like sitting there and like knowing what's going on over there and you can't do anything.
Yeah, it's like your hands are tied.
Yeah, yep. And that's a very hard thing to do, is just sit there knowing that there's hurting, Marines, and my buddy probably needed some help out there with all the casualties, and they're just like, you can't go, you can't move, you can't go. But yeah, and then another big part of Iraq was so our main mission was, from what I remember, was to turn the city, or turn the province, because we were in Al Anbar, is to turn the province over to the Iraqi police, and it was kind of a transition of power to get them to enforce their own laws in their own city, in their own province, and so that way the U.S. could pull back and not have to worry about the terrorists coming and retaking everything, because we had trained these police and showed them how to do it, and so that way and that's what a lot of the other fobs was training the police to take over and fight off those insurgents. And so the day of the, I think it was called the PIC. I don't know what it stands for, but it was basically like the day that it was like the transfer of power. We were getting the trucks, some kind of big explosion. Supposedly they like shot a mortar or a rocket into the base, and I was like, oh man, I don't know what that explosion was, but we better get out of here. So we got in, and there was a big stadium thing, and they were all in there doing their transfer of power, and we were kind of posted up and as security and just kind of hanging out, waiting for something to happen outside, but nothing really happened. So I think for the most part the city was okay with it, but of course we all know that it didn't work out the way that we wanted it to. So,
Brad, I want to go back to that explosion that took casualties, and it was like, my hands are tied, I want to get in there, but you couldn't. At that time, walk us through your emotions. I know there had to have been some sort of hopelessness and helplessness that you could not help your fellow brother in need and your brothers in need during that volatile time in Iraq, in Ramadi. Now, did you have, I mean, were you struggling with that anger-wise, or did you say, you know what, we can't go in there because it's a hostile environment, and if I go in there, we're going to put more lives at risk? Walk us through the mind of Brad Bennett at that specific time.
It was tough, I mean, I guess a little piece of me in the back of my mind kind of knew, like, well, if we took off, then maybe the fob that we were just at might get hit, but nothing else mattered at that time, like, because I was just hanging out in the back of the truck in the MRAP, and when that explosion happened and I could feel that in my chest, like it was like bam, and so of course that got the adrenaline going, and then of course we thought that we were gonna get hit, or that we were being hit. So like, I mean, the fear factor of that was just intense. I was ready. I was ready to jump out and help my guys fight. And then, nothing was happening. So I was just kind of confused, and I was, scared. And I was angry because at the time I was very angry because I was like, we need to go. We need to get over there, do something. And they just kept saying, no, no, no. And it was just like, I don't know. It was like torture, you know. I was just mostly anger. Mostly anger is what I was feeling at that time.
How long would this moment last? Minutes, hours, days?
Probably minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe like less than an hour, I think. I don't really remember, but I mean
Well, yeah.
it wasn't a whole long time.
How long did it take for you to come back to the realization of what had happened and what you had experienced to get back to saying, okay, we need to now focus on another mission or whatever? Or did that time never really come, or were you just like just so dead set on the recovery of what you saw?
No, I mean, you know, we were trained for stuff like that, you know, so you know, once it was long enough to know that there would have been nothing at that point that I could have done, even if we would have drove over at that part, you know, at that point. Um, you know, everything would have been taken care of. So, you know, it was once I had come to that and I was like, okay, well, it's over. There's no more attacking going on. There's no more bombs, nothing. I think that, you know, he probably, you know, whatever happened has already happened. And, you know, and then you just get on with the mission. You know, we just mount back up and take off and start doing what we were, you know, what we were out there to do.
Sure. Absolutely. Brad, I'm going to pause about 30 seconds here. I'm going to give a shout out to today's show sponsor. Folks, today's show sponsor is Patch Ops. Patch Ops is a veteran-owned small business that provides infantry-inspired, high-quality PVC morale patches. That's right. U.S. Marine veteran Timothy Hickey is the president and founder of Patch Ops and has taken this business to new heights. It has morphed into something far bigger than just custom PVC morale patches. Folks, Patch Ops has an art team that is ready to drop and create your very own custom designs and logos for you, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor, whatever it may be for your next event. Visit patchops.com today. That's patchops.com today and see for yourself. The shirt I am wearing right now is from Patch Ops. Look at this beautiful Today with Tally podcast shirt. You can get yours today as well as Tally Bill shirts. All you got to do to get one is go to patchops.com and search Tally. They also offer patches, stickers, hats, and much more. Connect with them today. Once again, patchops.com. Also, Timothy Hickey is also engaged with another nonprofit in the Cleveland area that is working to get homeless veterans off the streets. So if you have any, old clothes or, blankets, pillows, jackets, pants, whatever it may be, also go to patchops.com. Maybe drop them a message if you can help with that other mission. I believe it's Sub-Zero mission. And I'm just speaking directly off of memory right now. But guys, go out and support this awesome veteran-owned business. You will not be disappointed. Folks, we are back with Brad Bennett. He is a U.S. Navy combat veteran, a Fleet Marine Force Naval Corpsman, aka Devil Doc. You got to love your Devil Docs, right? Now, for folks that have never been to Ramadi, in Iraq, there, describe what it looks like and feels like and smells like. Just paint us a picture for those folks that have never been there, to kind of so they can use their imagination and put themselves right in the middle of where you were at in Ramadi.
Well, a lot of buildings that have a lot of bullet holes and a lot of sandbags and windows. The smell isn't very good, but I mean, anyone that's been to Kuwait knows the smells over there. It just it always just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain the smell. It's always bad though, It's really not like too much different, like in like the main part of the city. You still have like cars driving around and you still have people walking around. When we would drive down the roads, we would have, people, behind us in traffic and all that, So I mean, it's not too much different other than the fact that, every once in a while you got to watch out for an IED or a car bomb, and that's one of those scary parts of it is, especially, with all the trash and everything else that you see on American roads, that freaks you out coming home because that's what you're looking for when you're over there.
Mm.
You're looking for trash, or you're looking for curbs on sidewalk curbs that are changed because supposedly they like take a part of the curb out and they put more like concrete in over like an IED to like make it look like the curb and supposedly it'll explode. But stuff that you were looking for like that will kill you or injure your guys. And it was kind of a weird place because it was almost like just a regular town, but then again, like it was like every building was peppered with bullet holes and the sandbags and but like when it was pretty quiet, especially at night because we always ran at night, so it was always pretty quiet unless they had won a soccer game and they were doing their celebratory fire and firing up in the air. And you hear a lot of you hear an explosion every now and again. And then when you get back to base, you're hearing the gunfire and the explosions out in the city, and you're not sure if it's just them celebrating or if it's something actually happening. So it's it would be like walking down your neighborhood, except for your neighborhood looks like a war zone.
Sure. Sure. And so many, you had said that you were attached to a motor T unit at the time when you were in Ramadi. And,
Yeah.
again, that's all you're trained to do is look for those roadside bombs and those IEDs. You don't ever know if that next movement of that tire is going to hit an IED or a roadside bomb. What does that do to your mental well-being when it comes to, say, like anxiety and stuff? Like when you were in the fight itself, and you said it was quiet, but you say it was quiet now, but you at the time when those wheels are moving, because there were so many casualties, and the majority of a lot of what I have seen from the folks that have been there and have been through it all are a lot of ambushes, roadside bombs, and that's what took a lot of legs, limbs, and the IEDs. You never know when they're coming. It just boom, all of a sudden you're over one, and the explosion happens. And a lot of the times, these folks are waking up perhaps days or weeks later out of a coma in Walter Reed or somewhere back in the rear. At a field hospital, or they've been sent to Germany or whatever it may be. Did you ever have a feeling of the uncertainty that has now driven you to like maybe suffer from some sort of mental illness when it comes to anxiety and depression from what you went through when you were in combat?
Yeah. I mean, especially when you first get back, you first get back and like I didn't even want to drive because I was like, there's you see like all the stuff on the road and everything else. And the weird thing about being over there looking for stuff like that was you're doing it so much that I'd say about 2 months in you just stop caring. Like you're still looking for it, but you're not really feeling that fear. Like you're just driving down the road and you see something, you're like, oh, maybe that's an ID. I don't care anymore. Let's just run over it and see. So that's probably where you get kind of the dark humor from, because you're just like, oh, that's probably just an ID, man. Whatever. And my guys, my log train got pretty lucky when it came to IEDs. We could have been hit by two, and the first one was caught by one of the A drivers, and it was just some guy on the side of the road. He looked like some Iraqi dude. He was he had his pickup, and he was leaned up against his pickup like this with some sunglasses on, like looking like some 80s guy, like some 80s movie guy. And they called that in because they're like, hey, this guy doesn't look right, so they called it in, and yeah, he was playing an ID, and so they caught that one. And then the second one was they had caught one of the insurgent dudes, and he gave up some information about a IED that was planning to hit our convoy. So they ended up posting a cordon a cordon around it while we were out there. And so, we got pretty lucky on IEDs. We did have a couple guys hit IEDs over there from the other FOBs. And I felt bad for the one guys, because we were sitting in the motor pool, and they came walking up just like black from head to toe, man. And they were carrying they have the security blankets on the back of the MRAPs, and it was just charred up. And I was like, man, these guys, and just the 1,000-yard stare, And, a couple of the guys they got hit by it. We didn't have a whole lot of injuries, as far as IEDs go, not physically anyway. So, but yeah, it's even today, if I'm driving and I see a piece of trash or like a bag or something, I kind of tense up, like not even knowing, not even realizing, and it's just, I don't know, just one of those things that I guess is always going to be in the back of your mind.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of mental and emotional type injuries. The wounds of war are not always physical, and we are fighting this epidemic in this country of 22 veterans a day is always the estimate that they put out there. We don't really know exactly what that is. It changes. It probably fluctuates. I've heard up to 40. I've heard as low as 18. We never really know, but I do know it happens because I am so heavily involved in the veteran community. I get emails every day and text messages and Facebook private messages, and it happens far too often. And you're kind of connected with all these people, in one way, shape, or another. The military community is small. I think at any given time in our country, there's like 1% to 2% of our population is actually serving this country. And then you look at the veteran populace, 20 million American veterans. Well, that's another small community right there. So we are so connected to one another in ways that, it's personal, and you feel it when bad things like that are continuing to happen in the veteran community, really due to no fault of their own, because of what they went through and what they saw, whether it was, the fogs, of war. And like you were saying, the battle fatigue, like, I don't even really care anymore. We've been through so much as it is. And, it's just, you become a savage, kind of makes you numb.
Yeah. And it's kind of, a lot of the guys will tell you, it's, you do so much that, like, it doesn't even matter anymore while you're over there, and then it's just, you just kind of say, hey, if it happens, it happens. It's just like taking mortars. I've known guys that have taken a whole lot more mortars than I have, and those guys, I'm sure, will tell you that at the time it was just, if it happens, it happens. Who cares? Whatever.
Yeah, there was a time that you knew that, hey, look, I've accepted this. I'm willing to die for my country and my brothers and my sisters that are fighting alongside of me. And If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, great. Hey, that's bonus play.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of one of those, moments of acceptance to say, it is what it is. And, and that's tough, to really accept that, when it comes knocking on that door, and I know the amount of vigilance too, that, that you're constantly under, and probably still today, because of all that, it's something that you really can't just turn off. I mean, it's something that you will carry with you, for the rest of your life, as well as many others, who are over there, fighting in that same war. I want to move on to when you were assigned with the 24th MEU, and you did a lot when you were in for 8 years. I mean, you've seen a lot. You've probably seen more stuff than many average Americans won't see in 10 lifetimes. And it's probably, there's so many people that always have bad and negative things to say about what's going on around them, with really nothing that they're doing interjecting themselves in to make the country a better place. They just like to complain about a lot of stuff, if you know what I mean. And you were involved in so many things over there, and so when you were with the 24th MEU, you were out on a humanitarian effort in Haiti. Like I said, people don't really know and understand what Haiti looks like and what Ramadi looks like. And these people, a lot of the Americans that have bad and negative things to say, have never probably even left their county, let alone their state. And they don't understand how really good they actually do have it here in the United States. I want you to explain to me what happened when you were over there with the 24th MEU, when you were taking a part with that humanitarian effort in Haiti.
So we were actually on our way to Afghanistan. And when we shipped off, we got a little while down the, and they had said, okay, well, we're going to divert to Haiti because they had an earthquake. So we went to Haiti, and I remember it's kind of a funny story because we were loading up in the helicopter, and they were telling us, oh, get ready because get your rifles ready or whatever, because we might have to push some people back because they're probably starving and hurt and everything else, and they're probably going to come up and try to hang on to you. And so I was like, okay, we're ready. So we flew off the ship, landed on the Haitian shore and over at Port-au-Prince, and they had already had a perimeter set up. The Marines had already had a perimeter set up. So I was like, all right, let's do this. And then I come charging out, and I was like, oh, it's nothing. So, it was just like, there was a lot of destruction over there. You could tell that it was a beautiful place. The water was just blue, and it was clear, and there was just mountains around, and you could just tell that it was beautiful, and then it was just destroyed. And so there was a lot of destroyed buildings. We did handed out some MREs, and we posted security, and it was we helped out as much as we could. A lot of the casualties they shipped off to I can't remember which hospital ship, but they shipped off to one of the hospital ships. And some of the guys on my ship ended up going over there and helping out, and that was pretty cool. So to be able to hand out rice and hand out MREs and all the stuff that my guys did that went out in the town to help them and give them stuff that they need or help them out as far as like picking up pieces or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool that a lot of my guys was able to do that. I was mostly just over at the staging area, posting up the security and making sure that things were calm and cool and collected. So,
how long were you in Haiti?
Not very long, a few days.
Now, I was kind of reading your bio, and I didn't really understand some of it, and I'm like, I'm just going to ask him on air. What's this pirate thing that you were talking about? And again, I wanted to save this moment because I didn't know what it was, and I was like, oh, I'm going to ask him a trick question now and see and see what I get. Right. So, explain this pirate or these pirates. What happened? What was the scenario that played out? Explain.
So this was when we had left, I believe when we had left like the Horn of Africa. And we were sailing away from Africa, and it was like real early in the morning. I remember because I was sleeping, and I woke up to the ship shaking, boom, boom, boom. You know, they're firing off the 25 mic, and so I ended up going to the med bay, or I think they called it the med bay. Anyway, so we went down there, and there was we had the one pirate guy that he had his half of his leg was gone, so I had to run up and grab a tourniquet, and you had the ship doctors, and you had the ship crew, and a couple of the Greenside corpsmen were there helping out, and but it was just the guy that had was like the only guy that shot at these dudes actually has a book out, and it's I think it's called Pirate Hunter or something like that. And he took out, because the skiff came up. They were in this little skiff with like AK-47s and ladders and masks, and they came up, and what they do is they like merchant ships, they'll come up and they'll shoot at the bridge to get them to stop, and then they'll board the ship and they'll take the ship. Well, they came up and shot at the bridge, and the bridge was like, "No, man." So, so fired a couple of 25 millimeters into him, and then pulled him up, and got him patched up, got him detained and all that. And they were saying, "Hey, we just wanted water. We just wanted some water and some food." And so they sent him off to the Nassau and sent him back here for a trial. And they ended up going to Gitmo. But it was a crazy thing, man. Like it was, it's just another example of like I didn't personally shoot at these pirates, but like I have all these cool stories like happening around me, and it's just like it's like the fire all around me, and I'm like, oh, this is cool.
So you guys literally picked up Haitian pirates.
Well, I think they were Somali pirates. This was more towards.
Yeah, that happens a lot in Somalia. And it does happen a lot of those MPF ships and those, container ships, because they just want to get on and hijack it and take everything on there and take it to their port, unload it, and then they're rich.
Yeah, I think this was a little later in the deployment. And Haiti was like the first thing that happened.
So you would end up patching up this pirate that had his leg removed.
Yeah, so I grabbed the tourniquet and I threw it to my buddy. So my buddy put the tourniquet on, but they had already had him in there, and they were already treating him. And by the time I got there, my buddy was just like, "Hey, just go grab a tourniquet," because they had a compression bandage on it, and obviously, it worked for a little bit, but it's not going to work for a long time. So I grabbed the tourniquet, brought it back down, and he threw it on. So I didn't like personally like treat the guy by myself, but we had the doctors there and everything else. So
what was it like encountering Somali pirates?
It was strange. Like what? Like you never think about like, hey man, I'm gonna be fighting some Jack Sparrow dudes,
I mean, you're a kid from Grand Island, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Now you find yourself in the middle of a firefight, basically between a container ship and Somali pirates, right?
Well, it was we were on the Ashland. It's a what do they call it? Amphibious ship. It's a Navy battleship.
Okay, so I guess I was confused. So I thought what was going on is that the Somali Pirates were going after a container ship, and
No.
kind of interjected in between and kind of stopped it from
No,
happening.
no. That was my example. Is they usually pull up and shoot at the bridge of the merchant ships, and that's what they tried to do to the Navy ship. But the Navy ship was like, no, like take them out.
Wow, these guys are
Yeah,
a little ballsy, I'd have
yeah.
to say about that.
Well, like I said, it was early in the morning, so I don't even know if they thought it was a Navy ship. They probably just thought it was a merchant ship. It
Boy,
was
oh boy.
it was strange. It was strange
Probably
because
the
I,
first
I
and
was
the
like I
last
was like I
time.
never thought I'd be fighting pirates, dude.
It's got to be the first and the last time they're going to ever attempt that.
Yeah. I mean, there's units that go out there just to hunt down pirates, and I never knew that until after that because then I started telling my pirate story, you know, and then they're like, oh yeah, like this unit went out and they were hunting down pirates, and I was like, okay, that's cool.
Dude, I think that's a job that I would still take on today at 46. I They
Right.
can't run and jump and swim that well anymore. But dude, I could still, fire.
Yeah, yeah. You can take out some pirates, man. I've seen some videos of it too. That the guys just up on the bridge, just firing at pirates.
Incredible, man. Yeah, talk about freaking some good adrenaline, man. Like, dude, there they
Yeah,
are. Let's go get them.
yeah. I know like I said, I was asleep, and then I woke up to the firing, and then I went down to med bay, and I mean everything was pretty much over by then. But it was just all they did was fire a couple of the 25 millimeters, and if you've ever seen a 25 millimeter, it's like this big, dude. And I mean, it tore them apart. I think they fired maybe three or four rounds, and it tore them apart pretty good.
Brad, you served 8 years active duty. All in all, how would you rate your experience serving in the U.S. Navy?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, like I said, I have like a problem with authority kind of antics or whatever, and so like, I kind of I kind of got a little excitement over you know fighting some of the higher ups, and then they always win, but it was just a little fun for me. But
Mhm.
I think other than that, like being out there and doing corpsman stuff, like that's what I really enjoyed was doing the medical stuff. Like having that, especially with the Marines, like having that independence of you're like the only one out there. So being independent and being the only guy that they can rely on. I mean, that was pretty cool. But it was a lot of brain power. Like you get nervous about having to do all that stuff because you're like, okay, well, what if something happens that I can't take care of, then but yeah, I mean, other than that, I think I'd do it again, if my
Mhm.
if my body wasn't tore up. I think I might do it again.
Sure. Do you have any life experiences that you have taken with you and will always take with you from the time that you spent in the Navy that stand out? Whether it's losing a friend or forever changing the way that you look at life or perspective or the vigilance. What has carried on with Brad Bennett from the time that you served in combat that is making you the man you are today?
Mm. Well, I'd say like life experience wise, I think core school is probably the most that I had learned as far as life experience in that going into core school, not even knowing being a corpsman meant medical, so I was just completely out of my league. I was in a game that I didn't even know how to play. And so learning that I could do it just by, perseverance and, like just studying and just pushing as hard as I can. I mean, that really showed me that like anything was possible, you know, because I mean, I didn't do very good in high school. I didn't even care about graduating high school. All I wanted to do was get in the military, you know. So, you know, go do core school where you're learning all this medical jargon and, you know, pharmaceuticals and you're learning field medicine and how to throw, you know, a quick clot in, or how to, you know, it's just pushing and keep pushing is what I learned, because you can do anything if you know. I mean, I know this is cliche, but you can do anything if you put your mind to it.
Sure.
You know, other than that, like I'd say Iraq was another big point of like living life like it's your last day, and you know, you don't get to that point where, you know, you're not nervous about a lot. You know, if you are nervous, you just do it anyway, because either way, you know, it's going to be scary. So, you know, you just go.
And then when you're fighting alongside your guys, you're like, hey, I got what I need right here. And you've already accepted the realization of death. You've seen it, you've smelt it, you know, you've heard it, and you know the effects of it. And it's tough, you know, it's something hard to go through, you know, but you did it. And I got to say here that this is pretty cool, what I just thought of in my head. So you wanted to be in the Marine Corps, but the Marine Corps said no. So you went to the Navy and they said, we're going to make you a Corps man. So you're like, oh, so that's kind of like the Marine Corps too, right? A Marine Corps to a Corps man. You're like, what's a Corps man? Oh, a Corpsman.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those examples of like, you know, it's like that trouble with authority kind of thing. You know, well, you say no, so I'm going to come in the back door. You know,
or it could be Corps man.
Corps man. Oh man, yeah.
Oh man. Brad, man, thank you so much for, you know, sharing, you know, some insight and some stories with us, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, we sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do in the military and veteran community. Your service, your sacrifice, and dedication to our great nation is truly admirable.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Folks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the program. It has never been easier to listen to this podcast. We are on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Folks, you're in traffic, go to one of those platforms, listen to a podcast, give it a shot, and you're going to find out. I think you can relate with a lot of our podcasts, folks. This is episode 192. We have a lot of great content out there that I know will speak directly to you if you give it the hour it deserves. I'm telling you right now, some of these podcasts may just change your life. We've had so many great guests. Folks, you can also learn more about me and my personal story, and perhaps even get my new book at briantalley.com. I'm also a speaker. I could speak at your next event. All you got to do is go to briantalley.com for more information. Folks, remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. Until next time, for the Today with Talley podcast, this is Brian Talley. Good night. Semper Fi.